going on, Jerome's? So Minnesota fighting Vikings general manager Kwesi Adofo-Mensah has 3 drafts under his belt now, and him coming from a non-traditional GM background, where generally GMs from back in the day, former players, former scouts turned GMs, but Kwesi coming from an analytics, Moneyball point of view is just like, this is going to be interesting to see what happens with Kwesi. And of course, right out of the gates, the 2022 draft class, maybe not so much. And we've gone over things like, the crown jewels of Scene and Booth, both already off the team before the start of season 3. Booth traded to Dallas. He did make the 53. I actually think that Zimmer kept him on the 53 just to troll the Vikings. I know. Lucien was waived, cleared waivers, and then signed with the Jets, and then eventually the Bills practice squad. There's only one full-time starter in Ed Ingram, who... Asamoah's a backup. Evans is a backup. Ty Chandler's looking to be RB2. Jalen Naylor, a wide receiver 3. Nick Muse is a backup. Vidarian Lowe and Asazi out the door. And you could say that probably the most successful player from this class was undrafted. A punter Ryan Wright, who was great as a rookie. Not so much last year. Right. But Kwesi also from an analytical background. Of course, you can't get past the trades, where the Vikings were originally at 12 and 46, and then they made a couple of trades in division, one with the Lions, one with the Packers, also a trade up with the Colts, and the Vikings passed up on value, passing up on a guy like Kyle Hamilton. Perhaps you heard of him, all-pro safety from the Ravens, but again, going back to the analytics, the analytics nerds say that Kwesi did come out ahead in terms of value, so sure. But also, would have liked to got that first-round pick from the Lions in 2023. Didn't happen, but it is in stark contrast between old school GM like Rick Spielman, who was a player back in the day, also had a cup of coffee in the league, of course his brother, linebacking royalty for the Lions, and then Kwesi coming from the R&D analytics Wall Street background. But Kwesi had a really honest answer when it came to the 2022 class and their approach, and like he took ownership of the situation. Like he didn't deflect blame. He took full ownership of this spot, and it was actually really good. So this pull quotes from Ben Gessling, Star Tribune. Kwesi talking about what happened in 2022. I thought a lot about those days and trying to compete on multiple timelines and different things like that. I had a conversation with Kevin O'Connell. This is probably a year ago or something around then, and I asked him, what was it like when you were down 33-0 against the Colts in that historic comeback? Yeah. We remember that. What was it like being down 33-0? All we need are 5 touchdowns. When you were like down, when I entered the building trying to compete, aging roster, salary cap stuff, I think there were times where I felt down 33-0. Now, it's important to note that I came into the building and he felt down 33-0, even though 33-0 had not happened yet. But I understand Kwesi's perspective where, Rick Spielman, the Vikings were all in towards the last couple of years of Zimmer and Spielman. A lot of veteran contracts and just really, gambling on things. And I understand that Kwesi felt like he had to do too much. And he certainly did with that first draft. And as we all know from that game, it starts with one play, one drive, and you build. And I think at times I might have been guilty of trying to have a 33-point play all at once. I think if you've seen from since then, it's been really foundationally just taking good steps and building to a certain critical point where I think we compete over the long term. And if you look back, with the trades involved, where the Vikings originally were at 12 and 46, like he was trying to... Maybe Kwesi was trying to prove how smart he was. And, in retrospect, that could be the case. And hell, if Scene didn't pan out and Booth would have stayed healthy, and if Ed Ingram was just as good of a pass blocker as he is as a run blocker, all of a sudden this draft looks really different. Or if you stick and pick at 12 and take Kyle Hamilton, who's already a Pro Bowler, All-Pro, maybe that looks a little bit different, right? Or of course, this year, say Evans gets things together, maybe Ingram steps up, Ty Chandler is a running back 1B, and Jalen Naylor is a great wide receiver 3. All of a sudden, this draft class doesn't look too bad. But in terms of the analytics and in terms of Kwesi just trying to fill multiple positions at once with all of the trades, he didn't care if it was in division. He didn't care if it went against some of the old school charts. Kwesi was just making moves because maybe he felt like he maybe felt like he had to do too much, hence trying to make moves as opposed to just sticking and picking and just taking the best player available and just going bite for bite. Like Kwesi tried to eat the entire elephant at once as opposed to one bite at a time. So again, it's really good. That's really good because I feel like a lot of GMs would sort of not talk about 22 at all, or just pass blame or whatever. But Kwesi definitely took ownership of this spot. And frankly, the last 2 drafts have come around. Now, every single player isn't going to be an all-pro or even make the roster or whatever. But 2023, Addison, when Addison is on the field, he's very, very good. We'll go with that. Mekhi Blackmon was penciled in as a starter before he tore his ACL. Jay Ward made the 53. Jaquelin did not. Jaron Hall was waived. DeWayne McBride was just cut from the practice squad. Now that I look at this, maybe it sucks. I'm just kidding. But you do have to factor in Ivan frickin' Pace Jr. as the UDFA. All right. And then, this year's draft, J.J. McCarthy is the quarterback of the future. The knee injury is what it is. Diamond Dallas Turner is going to be a force. Kyrie Jackson, just tragic, man. Yeah. But Will Reichard looks to be a nail driver at kicker. Rouse and Juergens are nice depth for the future along the offensive line. Potential starters down the line. Levi Drake Rodriguez looks to be a stud. And then also you look at like Dwight McLaughlin, Taki Tamani, Gabe Murphy, Bo Richter as UDFAs. So, I mean, it's clear that Kwesi has gotten better at this, right? And, you're allowed to improve. And, Kwesi, yes, he was an assistant GM, but, his first draft, and maybe he was just, maybe, like we said, maybe he's trying to prove how smart he is. And maybe he's just trying to prove that, hey, I can do things differently because I can move all the way around in this draft because I'm the analytics guy, right? And if Cena Booth would have stayed healthy and it would have worked out, maybe he would have looked like the smartest guy in the room. But it didn't. So I like that he, took and ate a slice of humble pie and took ownership of the situation, used it as a learning experience, and the Vikings are better for it. So, again, you're not going to be perfect. You're never going to be. You're never going to bat 1,000. But learning from your mistakes, that's the name of the game, and that's the culture that I like that they're building here in the great state of Minnesota. But your thoughts are thoughts. Kwesi talks about the 2022 draft class being down 33-0. Let us know your thoughts. Our thoughts, comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Want to support the work? Put a little something in the Venmo. Time. Skol. Production value.